Welcome to Web Developmentor. My name is Emma, and today we are going to be taking this design for a portfolio page and converting it into semantic HTML. Let's go over to VS Code straight away and get coding. So, in order to convert this design into an HTML file, I have gone ahead and created a folder which is called Design to Code Portfolio, and I have opened that up in Visual Studio Code. I have added a couple of folders as well, one called Icons, which has the envelope, the GitHub and the LinkedIn icon, which I have saved from the design, and one called Images, which includes the image that is used in the header. And then I have just gone ahead and created an empty index.html file. And in order to see what we're up to on the side, I have an extension called Live Server, which I have installed. You can find it by going to the Extensions tab and searching for Live Server here and installing that if you want to. And I just have that going already. So I went to open with Live Server and have that in my window here. So in order to start in an index.html file, in VS Code it's very simple. There are some shortcuts which are really useful. If you just press the exclamation mark on your keyboard, you should get up some Emmet abbreviations like this, and just pressing the first one will give you a nice boilerplate. If this doesn't appear, you can always search for HTML boilerplate on Google and get up something similar. And here we get a HTML tag which says that our language is going to be in English, a head tag which has some metadata included in it which we don't really need to touch, and a title tag. And if we change this, we change the name that appears on the tab at the top of the page. So we could just write my portfolio. And obviously you can change this to whatever you wish your title to be called, but it will appear on the tab at the top of the page. Nothing else within the head will actually be seen on your page. It's everything that is inside the body, and at the moment there is nothing in our body, which is why we have got a white page, as you can see. So we are going to go ahead and start looking at this design, and the first thing we have at the top of the design is a navigation, and very handily HTML has a semantic tag for that. So if we just start writing nav, you should see it appear, otherwise it's just the word nav, and you can press tab and it will give you a closing tag as well. So we're starting with a navigation. Inside this navigation we are going to have 3 links. But these links are actually going to be written inside an unordered list, because that helps with navigation for screen readers. So we're going to start with an unordered list, and we are going to have those 3 list items, and every list item is going to have its own link inside it. So if I click on link and just click on tab, it will also give me something called a href. This is going to be where I want this link to direct to. Now this is not going to direct to some other page, but it's going to direct to another section of the page, so I'm going to use IDs for that, and in that case I'm going to put a hashtag and then I'm going to write the name, and I will use this later, this exact name, as an ID on a section. So then I can write my about me, and I can do this twice more for the other 2 links. So this one is going to go to the projects, and the third is going to go to contacts. Like that. And casing is important on your IDs, so if you write like a small c here, make sure that it's also a small c when you make this into an ID. The 2 must match in order for them to link to each other. So now we should be able to save this, and hopefully if we reload our page, we now see our 3 links. Now they're not going to go anywhere if I click on them because there aren't any IDs that will take us there. But we now have our navigation unstyled but ready to go in the next section. We'll add CSS in another video. So that's our navigation. Our next section is the header, and again in HTML we have a semantic tag called header. Don't mix this up with head. Head is the section that goes at the top and anything inside this won't be seen. We are going to use header instead. And inside this header we have our H1, which is going to contain our text. So hi, my name is Emma and I'm a developer. And if you look closely at the design, you can maybe see that my name is actually in another style. So I'm going to wrap this with a span, just so that I can come back and style it differently later. And later on I will be going through and maybe adding a few extra divs here and there in order to help with the layout, but we're not going to focus on that just now. We're just going to focus on the HTML, and I've just realised that maybe I should turn on word wrap so that everything doesn't disappear off the page. There we go. So underneath our H1 we have what looks like a button, but in fact this is also going to be a link because it says my work, which means I want you, when you click on it, to be taken down to the project section again. So I'm also going to make this into a link, but then later on I'm going to style it so that it looks like a button. It's really important that links and buttons don't get mixed up. So a link is something that will take you to another section of a page or to another page entirely. A button is something that performs an action. So even if you have a link and you want it to look like a button, it's still really important that you use a link, and vice versa. If you have a button but you want it to look like a link, it's still important that it actually has the role of button so that it gets the right semantics for screen readers and keyboard users, because a lot of stuff is actually built in. So here we're going to have a link, and this is also going to link down to the project section. So again, I'm going to use the hashtag projects, make sure it matches the one up there, and this one's going to say my work. And finally I'm going to have an image. If I click tab again, I get these 2 attributes, source and alt. The source is where is the image stored, and that is a dot and a slash will tell you that this is in the same level as what I'm on now. I actually want to go down to the images folder, and then I want to choose Undraw Programmer. So that's my source. The alt text is important. If it's just a decorative image, still important to have an alt text and leave it blank, and then the screen reader will ignore it. In this case, I'm going to just write a short text of a cartoon woman sitting at a computer coding, just for a little bit of context. And that is everything that is included inside our header. Now here in the header is probably somewhere I will come back and add an extra div later on, just so that we can get more of a layout that we combine the H1 and the link into one column and the image into another. But for now I'm just going to leave it, and we are going to move on. So if we save that, we should now see that our title and our image and everything appear. So now on to the next section, and here we actually have 4 sections, but before we start writing sections, these I would say are all our main content, and therefore we are going to use a main tag to wrap all of these sections, just so that you know, if using a screen reader or tabbing through this site, that you can hop to the main content directly. So in this main tag, we are then going to set up 4 sections, and each section is going to have its own ID. So we'll start with the first section. And on this section, I'm going to give this an ID of about, and this has to match the ID, the hashtag that I gave it up here in the link, so that they end up in the same place. And in this section, it has a title. Now I have already used a H1 on this page, so I can't use any more H1s because you should only have one H1 per page in the hierarchy. So now we are on to using H2s for these titles. Important that it is a H2 and not a H3 or a H4. You should not use the heading tags just purely for styling, but you should go back and style these how you want. So it's very, very important that these are in the right order, that you don't hop from a H1 to a H4. You have to go in order, so I'm now using a H2. So this one's going to say about me, and we're going to have a paragraph tag, and here I'm going to just use some fake text. If you write lorem and then press tab, you will get some text, which is really useful, and that is all we need in that section. And you'll see now appearing about me and some text down here. So let's continue to the next section. Another section tag, and this one is also going to have a H2 because it's in the same hierarchy as about me, and that's going to be projects. And before I forget, we need to add an ID of projects to this tag, and again it's important to make sure that projects matches the tag we used on our link so that they work together. So we have projects as our title, and now we have 3 what look like cards. We don't have a card tag in HTML, so here we are going to use an article, because technically I would say that each of these cards are standalone. You should be able to lift them out, put them somewhere else, and you would still understand that this is a project, and you'll have a bit of information and you have a link to the GitHub and to the project. So here I'm going to use an article tag, if I can spell it right. And normally I would, in this article, I would have an image, but at the moment we've just got a grey box. So instead of an image tag, I'm going to use a div, which I will then remove and replace with an image later on. So just a div as a placeholder. And I might just write a little comment here. And in HTML, to write a comment, you write a left crocodile and then an exclamation, 2 dashes, then you write your comment here, change to an image tag later, and then you finish your comment with 2 dashes and a right crocodile, so that we know that that's a placeholder there. Then we are going to have a title. Now, because these are hierarchically underneath the project's title, the H2, these are going to be H3s. And we will just put a placeholder project name in there. Each one will have a description, again a P tag, and we will just put some placeholder text with lorem in there. Maybe not quite as much as before. And underneath that, again, they look like buttons, but a link to GitHub and a link to a live demo. So we are going to use the anchor tag here. And I will leave these, I'm just going to put a hash to leave these blank at the moment. Again, we can fill these in later. GitHub and a link to a live demo. And these would be made to look different through styling, which we'll come to later on. So that is one article. If we just save that, we should be able to see that we have it doesn't look very card-like at the moment, but we'll fix that later. Project name, a description and 2 links, but these are not going to lead anywhere at the moment. And because these are just placeholders at the moment, I am just going to copy and paste just to save a little bit of time on that one. Okay, so that's section 2 done. Let's move on to the skills section. So again, a section, and again, we put an ID on it. Now we don't actually have a link to this in our nav bar. If you want to, you can add it. I didn't think it was super important, but some people might want to be able to jump to the skills section as well. So we'll add the ID just in case you want to go back and add it, in case you're forking this later on and playing around with it. Again, we will use a H2 because this is in the same hierarchy as the About Me title and the project's title. So this is going to say skills. And then in here we just have lots of small, again, they look like buttons, but in my sense these are not actually going to do anything when you click on them. So I'm just going to use some spans for these, and I'm just going to fill them in with some different technologies, and then we're going to style them how we wish later. So HTML, I know some CSS, I know some JavaScript. What else do I know? React. You can obviously go in and change these as you wish. One more, maybe maybe we can write span first. View. So that we've got a few that will appear on our page. Now if we scroll down, we've got 3 projects and we've got skills, which doesn't look very exciting at the moment, but we'll pretty it up later. So almost done then. Let's scroll down to our final section. So under this we are going to have one more section, and again we will give this an ID, and this one will be called contact, and a title. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. A H2 first. Again, it's in the same hierarchy as the others, so contact me. And then under this H2 we are going to have some images, and this image is again a dot and a slash. We'll say this is in the same folder that we're already in, but we actually want to go down to the icons folder, and then we want to go to the envelope, and we can give this an alt text of envelope. And actually what we will do is, just now I realised that we want these to be links as well, so we will wrap these in a link, and then again we'll come back and add the correct link later. I'm just going to put the image inside of the link, and I would do that twice more. Another link. In this one, actually, where it's an envelope, we can use a mail to, and we can add in our email. So .com. So when you have a link, if you put mail to and then a colon first and then the email, when you click on this image, it will actually open up your default email provider. That's not always the one you want, but it does then give you the chance to copy the email that is in here. And I'm going to write this out underneath as well. So let's just go and get those other 2 icons. This time we'll put in a hashtag and we'll change it to GitHub later. And we will import the image icon /icons, and this time we'll choose GitHub. And we will write GitHub icon. And finally, we are going to LinkedIn, but again, we'll just use a hash for now and add that later. An image we'll choose the LinkedIn icon, and we'll give this an alt text of LinkedIn icon. Okay, and the last thing on this page, you can also see the email, which again, an actual anchor tag, and we'll use the same trick as we did before, where we write mail to : and then we just put in an example email for now. And then inside the link, you can actually write again. And that will appear then as a link. Now, hopefully we haven't missed anything. Let's have a quick look at our site. Oh, okay. Our images are actually white, so you can't see them at the moment. Later on, when we come back and style this contact me form, you will be able to see them because we're going to put a dark background on this. So don't worry about the images they are there. They're just white, so it's hard to see. But now we can just go and check that. Hopefully clicking on the About Me will take us to the About Me section. Perfect. If we scroll up again, click on Projects, that takes us to the Project section. And finally, if we click on Contact, it takes us down to the Contact section. If we click on the Emma @ example, that will open up a window where you can then, if you don't want to use, like my default, it opens up in a Hotmail account, which I don't actually want to use. You can copy the email address and put it where you want it. So that is the structure in HTML. It's not looking very pretty at the moment, but we will come back and fix that later on in the next video. So I want to thank you very much for watching today. I hope some of this was useful. If you've got any comments or questions, please do leave them down below, and feel free to reach out to me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!